To RandomNet, where we just dive into the randomness of internet, and to make our life a bit more simpler, I'm gonna use a website which let me just show it, which has like a different platforms we can dive into. So I love this format because I have no control over what platform I'm gonna go to and what kind of content we're gonna be talking about today, but I love it because it let the universe or AI for guide us to what we're gonna be doing. So without any overdue, I'm gonna just click on the spin here to spin, and then it hopefully lands on one of the platform which I want, which is at the moment the Onion. Twitter. Twitter is a nightmare right now. Okay, Twitter. All right, Twitter. Let's see what's happening in your world today. Uh, and I haven't done this in a while on Twitter, so let me do this. I'm gonna transition back to this mode, and I guess and I'm gonna sign in and let you see my Twitter uh, profile and whatnot. Sign up, sign in. Where is sign in? Come on, Twitter. You can do better. And honestly, Twitter have started acting being shitty for the past week or so. You know, thanks, Elon. I feel like Elon is. I feel like Elon is just a man child at this point. I mean, do you remember, like every one of you, do you remember what Elon was saying before he bought the Twitter, that he gonna be like a savior of some sort for free speech? And the second he got on Twitter, he showed his true colors by being an dictator, so to speak. So I'm glad we could see that like on Twitter in real time, rather than who knows, like signing up for his SpaceX spaceships and going on Mars, and then discovering that Elon Musk is a dick. Well, think about that. So I'm glad like this social experiment with Twitter kind of showed his true colors. And I I think Elon lost the ground sometime back in 2019 or 2020. There could be a combination of things what affected him. Definitely, money is one of them, and some of the laws at the time due to COVID in California impacted his decision to kind of not just move from California to Texas, but also switch from Democrats to Republic, which is okay. I mean, I don't give a shit like what anyone's um, political belief might be, but I think that people like Elon and other grifters, I shouldn't call Elon as grifter from say economic standpoint, because he is after all one of the richest person in the world, but socially feeling, I feel like he's kind of grifting on different paths. Maybe like wherever he get most of the response, and at this point like owning the libs will get you response from the conservative side, so that's the role he's playing well. It's I'm kind of curious to see how it's gonna play out in near long term, in near future and long term future. And regardless, I don't see Twitter to be a viable solution for anything the way it's going right now. Especially because it went from like a group of people controlling Twitter to one guy controlling Twitter, and the only difference is they just lie on the different side of cultural and political spectrum, but it feels like a lot of the policies are the same. Like instead of banning any particular account because it does like harm to a society, now Twitter bans any account who does any sort of harm or could trigger the Emperor Elon. So good luck, Twitter, I guess. But Twitter is still a good place for connecting with people you admire, and on top of that, like I find a lot of value from some of the tweets and threads they post. Those are kind of enriching, like just give you an insight into someone else's mind, which is pretty much what internet is. Like if you consider blogs or videos or any of those things, but Twitter is like very specific format, right? And it have like a greater outreach as well. So overall, Twitter was a good solution. I said was. I don't know where it's heading now. I'm gonna be on Twitter. I'm not gonna get like a subscription plan to get like myself verified with like what 40 followers or less than 40 followers. I'm not gonna do that. But hopefully, in the coming year, I'll figure out how we can use the Twitter algorithm and the other social media algorithm at large to kind of reach out to more people and and get better at connecting with them and maybe even holding their attention on an hour-long videos like this one. Um, okay, let me sign into Twitter because my passwords are pretty complex for every platform. So let me recall what my platform password was. Great. All right. So we are in. And Musk tweeted Spaces is back, which, if you don't know, was down for a while. And conveniently after someone, trolled or maybe like, dissed on Elon yesterday, and the Spaces went down. So, yeah, take what you will out of that information. All right, Matt Taibbi wrote the part six of Twitter file saga. So let's go through that. And if you're not sure, this Twitter files are the new, I guess, attention grabbing whatever to kind of expose all the various things happen within Twitter when Elon was not the in charge, because obviously they would. And this looked like a combination of how government agencies and the various presidential campaigns reached out to Twitter to kind of take down different tweets from nefarious actors, at least from their point of view. So this is the whole expose, which only kind of highlights the the request made from the left side of the political spectrum and conveniently left out the right side of the political spectrum because Elon is Republican now. So take as you will with that info. All right. So Matt Taibbi, which I have respect for, at least right now, exposes the part six of Twitter files and got something to do with the FBI subsidiary. So the Twitter files are revealing more every day about how the government collects, analyzes, and flags your social media content. Twitter's contact with the FBI was constant and pervasive, as if it were a subsidiary. Between January 2020 and November 2022, there were over 150 emails between the FBI and former Twitter Trust and Safety Chief Yoel Roth. Well, Matt, I'm kind of curious what happened before January 2020 because conveniently, you are exposing only the things happened under Biden administration and not highlighting the things which happened in Trump administration. Hopefully, you kind of paint a picture on that. But again, like I said, Elon is conveniently just posting the left. The request made from the left side of the spectrum and conveniently leaving everything from the right side of the spectrum, at least from the past Twitter files expose. So I won't expect anything other than that here as well, but let's see. Some are mundane, like San Francisco agent Elvis Chan wishing Roth a happy new year along with the reminder to attend our quarterly call next week. Others are requests for information into Twitter users related to active investigations. Active investigations. That's the key. See, I don't trust FBI per se because I think FBI have like lot of incentives to create manufactured news or consent for that matter. So I'm not a fan of FBI, and I wasn't a fan of FBI when it was under Trump or Obama or Bush, or I mean, I wasn't even there here when Bush was president, but it doesn't matter. Under which president the FBI falls in. They always try to exploit the system and at times create this false narrative. So, but they still do a vital role in preventing domestic attacks. Not so well with the white supremacists, though, but still, the FBI plays a vital role in like helping out the country to be safe. So if they say they are asking or reaching out to Twitter for active investigations, I don't see any malicious intent with that. But again, it depends on who they are investing and what are they asking for. All right, so with that note, Matt says, but a surprisingly high number are requests by the FBI for Twitter to take action on election misinformation, even involving joke tweets from low follower accounts. The FBI's social media focused task force, known as FDIF, created in the wake of the 2016 elections, swelled to 80 agents and corresponded with Twitter to identify alleged foreign influence and election tampering of all kinds. Okay. Here's a quick hole in this whole tweet. But a surprisingly high number are requests by the FBI for Twitter to take action on election misinformation. All right. So back in January 2020, the election already happened. So you're talking about election results misinformation because election was already, finished by January 2020. Then if you're talking about election results misinformation, then that's pretty much out there. Every knowledgeable, rational thinker would say that Trump lost election. And sure, they're going to be like goofy assholes or people who would say otherwise. And I don't think we should like ban Twitter, ban their Twitter accounts per se, but I see why FBI would request that because they don't want like the misinformation to kind of like spread and incite more violence at different places in the country, which would be very difficult to kind of uh, extinguish. But here's the thing. Like I said, the election was completed before January 2020, so I don't know what my Matt Hebe mean that they were asking for election misinformation. All right, the FBI's social media focused task force, known as FDIF, created in the wake of the 2016 election, swelled to 80 agents and corresponded with Twitter to identify alleged foreign influence and election tampering of all kinds. I don't know why this is a part of Twitter files because nothing to do with Twitter, but also like if the government added more agents, which really seems to be the case after 2016, mind you. So I'm assuming under the Trump's administration, then how is that? What does that have to do with anything on Twitter? Because I'm sure like the social media are focused on other social media as well, and you can make a bigger argument that FBI is um, reaching out to other social media to suppress some kind of like profiles and accounts and whatnot. And I see the value to that. I personally I think like every account there shouldn't be any account which well let me rephrase. I mean most of the accounts uh, shouldn't be or let me rephrase like most of the accounts should be able to do whatever they want to because their bubble of influence might be smaller compared to like a bigger account, but at the same time it all depends on case by case basis. If someone is just saying random thing without even if it's a misinformation but doesn't really affect so to speak vast amount of people, then I think that's fine. Who cares? But there are people who could spread misinformation, which actually affect a lot of people, and that's a gray area. And I don't know what if the right step would be to just like suspend or ban their account, but definitely there are different tools which Twitter could have taken. Like community notes seems to be one of the case where they can just respond, or maybe like the Twitter users respond back to the tweet and say all the reasons why this tweet is false, and that seems like a better approach than like banning the accounts altogether. At the same time, I know these all people are at a very when I say these all, I mean like all the social media companies are at a very different uh, place, so to speak, because they not only have to live up to expectations of their end users, but at the same time they have to comply with laws and rules of different countries, and what different people think is acceptable and not. And at least in U.S., the First Amendment take precedence over any of the laws. So uh, um, I, I I think there's nothing wrong in even banning people if they break some sort of first if they break the First Amendment in some way, but not just because they're pissing Elon or whoever is in charge of the any particular social media at the time. Cool. All right, let's move on. So Matt says federal intelligence and law enforcement reach into Twitter included the Department of Homeland Security, which partnered with security contractors and think tanks to pressure Twitter to moderate content. It's no secret the government analyzes bulk data for all sorts of purposes, everything from tracking terror suspects to making economic forecasts. The Twitter files show something new. Agencies like the FBI and DHS regularly sending social media content to Twitter through multiple entries points pre-flagged for moderation. What stands out is the sheer quantity of reports from the government. Some are aggregated from public hotlines. For instance, this tweet from FBI El Paso, who tweeted, Election Day protocol for FBI headquarters is to stand up a national election command post which provides a centralized location for assessing election related threats. Status reports and complaints are tracked. Have a tip, send it to the FBI website or call their number. So, what's the problem with that? Uh, well, Matt moves on to say, in unanswered questions, do agencies like FBI and DHS do in-house flagging work themselves or farm it out? You have to prove to me that inside the fucking government you can do any kind of massive data or AI search, says one former intelligence officer. Well, if I have to pick a side, I would say FBI probably don't farm it out. They do it in house. I'm sure they may have like a contractors which kind of like maybe help them or something, but I'm sure most of it gonna be in house, because if they do farm it out, it's gonna become a nightmare, not just for the agency but for the government itself at large. All right, so he moves on to say, "Hello, Twitter contacts. The master canine quality of the FBI's relationship to Twitter comes through in this November 2022 email, in which FBI San Francisco is notifying you it wants action on 4 accounts." All right, let's check out the email. So, FBI sends below accounts which may potentially constitute violations of Twitter's terms of services or any action or inaction deemed appropriate within Twitter policy. So they listed out 4 accounts. So, okay. Well, Twitter personnel in that case went on to look for reasons to suspend all 4 accounts, including that one particular one whose tweets are almost all jokes, including his civic misinformation of November 8th. Okay. And suspend 3 of the accounts for multi-account abuse and ban evasions. Will you please review from civic? Okay, so I want to remind. Yeah, this is good joke. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right of me. That's a good line. Proposed container ship if there's a worldwide recession. Yeah, so he just troll. And they wanted to ban it. So this is where it becomes kind of like sketchy, because I'm not. I get it. Like the government agencies, they have to keep monitoring all these data and content just to make sure that the people are safe at large. Although I don't trust FBI, I think they have like their record has shown over and over that they they work mostly for themselves or the administration in power, and very rarely for the people. But even when they do work for people, they play a vital role in mitigating all the shootings or any other threats on the country. So it's a hard sell to say that these agencies shouldn't be reaching out to social media. What they could do is, instead of asking the social media to ban them, they could maybe, like, get more uh, uh, like a data points from those social media, meaning, like, how many times this particular account made threats to others or something on that line, or violated someone else's um, rights. Like, if you texted or if you tweeted someone's address and phone number, that kind of violates their right. So if any of that things happen, then they can, take it to the court and make a good case and then prosecute them appropriately. But to be honest, there are a lot of stages within that process. First of all, they, not only they have to collect the data points, they have to kind of prove that this particular individual is not good for whatever reason. Then reach out to the court, get their arrest warrant, and then go arrest, and then prosecute, have that trial and everything, and that kind of slows down all the process per se. Like, it delays the timeline in which the FBI or government at large can take action against malicious or nefarious actor. But I don't think there is anything wrong in kind of like pointing out to Twitter that, hey, take a look at this account and see if they are violating any terms of services, because just the agent felt that way. I think it's wrong on Twitter side just to kind of say that I've reviewed this already, and from the TD perspective, and suspended three of the accounts. So I'm not sure what are the logic behind Patrick's action, but that's up to Patrick to kind of justify that. Um, so I'm not in favor of like banning people or accounts altogether, but it's okay for FBI and other institutes to kind of like communicate with the social media just to kind of see what kind of like individual they are dealing with. So there's that. And just so you know, as an immigrant, my social media accounts are already with the Homeland Security, USCIS, and maybe even, who knows, FBI and CIA, who knows. But the point being, like, as an immigrant, I'm expected to post my the link to my social media post whenever I apply for an extension for a visa. And I'm presuming that they go over my Twitter feed, Instagram, Facebook, and whatnot, all of those feeds, and probably they are keeping tab on it. So this kind of goes on to say that there are different levels to this whole uh, social media thing, because the onus is not just on the government and institutes to kind of uh, try to kind of find the nefarious actors, but the onus is also on us, on the individuals, to make sure that whatever we are posting there, it's really what we want to post. Even if it's a troll, a joke, or whatever, it doesn't matter. It should be really what we want to post. And that's a tricky situation because it could dive into the whole psychology of different people, and a lot of people, if you don't know, would just react to the circumstances instead of, like, taking a step back, just understanding and absorbing what's going on, and then making a conscious, uh, educated choice. So Twitter, being Twitter, like, people can just post BS on that, and on top of that, since people can anonymize themselves, which I am in favor of, because I have like a few other Twitter accounts which are not my profile or name per se, but I use that only for specific purposes. Like, for instance, I have like Instagram accounts which one correlate to one of my comedy shows, and that's for a reason, because that's a comedy show which I do, and I post the content only related to that show on that profile. And likewise, I'm sure like different people have like different accounts for various reasons, and I think it's okay to kind of be anonymous on Twitter or other social media, and the onus is definitely on people who post their thoughts or their post or whatever, and uh, and when it comes to taking a more critical action, the onus is actually on the government and the agency. So, as an individual, should be mindful about what I post, but FBI and other institutes, as an institute, should be mindful about who they are prosecuting, because if they are wasting their resources on nobody, then uh, it's just that, wasting taxpayers' resources. All right, so let's go to the next one. Matt says, anyone who cannot discern obvious satire from reality has no place making decisions for others or working for the feds, said Claire Foster, PhD, when told about the flagging. But here's the thing, Matt. This particular individual, they already mentioned that they took an action for 3 out of 4 people. I don't know what the other 3 people post per se, but they did not take an action on the satire account. At least that's what it feels like. But okay, just to show how the FBI can be hyper intrusive in both directions, they also asked Twitter to review a blue leaning account for a different joke. Except here, it was even more obvious that Claire, who kids a lot, was kidding. Stating that the following: Americans vote day, Democrats, you vote Wednesday. Okay. Twitter account claimed in her post that she's a ballot counter in her state, and in additional post states, for every negative comment on this post, I'm adding another vote for the Democrats. And if you're not wearing a mask, I'm not going. Dude, who the fuck is this FBI resource? I think they should be fired. I mean, they should. There seems to be like the real stupid asshole here, because clearly this is a joke. And yep, Dr. Foster did post those. And yeah, like FBI, come on, develop a sense of humor. Again, I get it. Like, you deal with like more serious shit, but this is not one of it. And especially look at this lady, Dr. Foster. I mean, assuming that she's really Dr. Foster, who looks like that, No, she's not a threat. Especially looking at the text, clearly she's not. No, why the fuck did I like that? Okay, Matt says, of the 6 accounts mentioned in the previous 2 emails, all but 2 were suspended. Okay, so what's your point, bro? An internal email from November 5th, the FBI's National Election Command Post, which complies and sends on complaints, sent the SF field office a long list of accounts that may warrant additional action. Okay. All right. Agent Chan passed the list on to his Twitter folks. Twitter then replied with its list of actions taken. Note mercy shown to actor Billy Baldwin. Okay. I'm sure, like, again, I don't know the details of each and every individual account, but if all FBI is doing is like looking at the public tweets and then saying like, hey, Twitter, these may be violating your terms and conditions, then Twitter is taking another look at it and then banning it, then I think that's fair, because Twitter have terms and conditions, and there is only so much any resource or AI could do to ensure that those terms and conditions are respected, I guess. But all the tweets are in public, so FBI or any other institutes are okay to kind of like capture that data and send it to Twitter and asking like well, what pointing out about this particular account. I disagree. I first of all, I think like FBI's are morons if they just started passing on like a satirical or clearly joke accounts, because that's the most idiotic thing to do, and to kind of erode your own trust from the people. Because come on, it's a joke. You can read it, and if you don't know, just hire better people. They would be able to dissect that. Hire more comedians for a change, at least, just to kind of review your social media content, so we can at least just take a look at it and I'm like, this doesn't cross a line, or no, this is seriously violation of something. But again, we are people, we are biased. So maybe like developing an algorithm within FBI would be a better approach. And I'm sure FBI have some sort of things, or at least they have the resources to create an algorithm which they can, filter out some of these things. But at the same time, it's not. I get it. Like when FBI kind of like look at particular accounts and notify Twitter of they may be actively violating the law, but or terms of conditions per se. But at the same time, NBA have to understand where they're focusing on their resources. If they're focusing their resources on like a nobody, like well, I shouldn't be saying nobody to Claire because I don't know how many followers. Well, 44,000 followers. So she does have like a lot of followers. So regardless, like I know for sure that some of these institutes kind of focused on like a nobodies and make a huge deal out of it. Uh, okay, so where were we? Many of the above accounts were satirical in nature. Nearly all, with the exceptions of Baldwin and RSP Network, were relatively low engagement, and some were suspended, most with a generic thanks Twitter letter. But here's the thing: if you ever been on Twitter, like some of these are automated. Like the AI suspends a lot of these. I don't think that's the case with this particular situation because FBI clearly kind of like listed out their profiles and passed it down to Twitter to take a specific look into it. So this is not flagged by algorithm, and if the algorithm is good enough to flag the content, then the Twitter should be like, hey, our AI algorithm didn't flag it, so we won't. That should be the better approach for Twitter or any other social media in future, I guess. Like they can create a good algorithm, and again, that's debatable what's good, what bad is, but they can create a good algorithm and kind of like just be transparent about what that algorithm does, and it could automatically block the people or the profiles which violates that, and the profiles can obviously respond back, or they can like um, they can uh, and demand the Twitter to kind of like undo their action because if they notice that it was unfair. But I get all of that part of what do you call the process, but I think Twitter and social media companies have to definitely develop like a better algorithm into how they kind of filter out these tweets. And to be honest, like they don't even have to um, ban those accounts per se. They can always kind of like change the algorithm, which is what the algorithm does, right? Based on like the trending topics, the algorithm will push your profile anyways. But um, yeah, um, again, there is no concrete solution to this, and there are like smartest people in the world working on the solution. But I think that everyone is going way over their head because it's not such a huge deal. Um, Twitter files, this whole Twitter files, the past five Twitter files have been nothing but, I mean, things which we already know. It's kind of like the time when Snowden kind of exposed the government, telling us that the government spy on us, which we kind of sort of already knew. So it's kind of like a nothing burger. But they're trying to like the Elon Musk specifically. He's trying to make it seems like the past team was like so terrible on so and so issues and I'm fixing it. But in reality, it's not the case because we can see it clearly. The proof is in the pudding. Like Elon Musk, ever since he came on board, he started, suspending accounts who make fun of him. Which looking at Elon, there's a lot to make fun of him. But sure, at the very level, he owns the Twitter, so he can do whatever he wants. But yeah, that's not what he said when he was buying Twitter, and that seems to be the case with most of the politicians as well. So I guess Elon could become a good politician in the future. Matt, he says many of the above okay, satirical. So let's check it out. Are these all satirical accounts? I wish I could zoom in. Okay, so this is the automated message which Twitter sends, which says, "Hello, we are writing to let you know that we have reviewed your appeal and your account features will remain locked or limited for the allotted time or pending completion of the assigned task due to violation of Twitter rules, attempted voter suppression, including vote." Okay. All right. So Matt goes on to say, when told of the FBI flagging, Lexi Tola replied, "My thoughts initially include seems like prima facie one a violation. Holy cow, me, an account with the reach of an amoeba? What else are they looking at? How many 791 followers?" Well, yeah, exactly. So if you have like less than what 10,000 followers, I think that should be like a fair amount. I think you should be accepted. Like 10,000 people listening to you out of like millions of people. Uh, it's a very granular chance that those 10,000 people are gonna do anything at all. Knowing just humans. All right. So Matt continued to say, "I can't believe the FBI is policing jokes on Twitter. That's crazy." In a letter to former Deputy General Counsel and former top FBI lawyer Jim Baker, legal executive Stacia Cardill outlines results from her soon-to-be weekly meeting with DHS, DOJ, FBI, and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Okay. The Twitter executives writes she explicitly asked if there were impediments to the sharing of classified information with industry. The answer, FBI was adamant, no impediments to sharing exist. This passage underscores the unique one big happy family vibe between Twitter and the FBI. With what other firm would the FBI blatantly agree to no impediments to classified information? Yeah. Okay. So the crux of all of this is like FBI been monitoring our tweets and they reach out to Twitter occasionally to kind of, or maybe more frequently than occasional. Let's just say they reach out to Twitter 5 times a day. How about that? And they kind of like list out all the different um, profiles which they think are problematic. First of all, FBI, if they think they are problematic, they should make a better case for every profile they put up. They shouldn't be like blatantly putting down like random profiles or whatever they think is doesn't align with what they believe in per se, or whatever FBI's agenda is per se. But I get that there is a happy medium here because definitely FBI's agenda should be to ensure that people are not harmed physically from the malicious or nefarious sources, and most of those happen to be in the physical world rather than on the virtual world. But I get the point that virtual world is vital because people can just share any thought, and they're gonna be like a rally of people who would either like that thought or would hate it. And regardless, everyone have a right to say whatever they want. It just kind of exposes them for who they are, and rather than diminishing their ability to kind of like share and whatnot. Um, there is a fine line here. I am not saying that the government agencies should be connecting or working with social media. At the same time, I'm not saying that the government agencies shouldn't be working with social media, because the government agencies work with every other corporations. It doesn't matter if they are social media or a physical industry of some sort or any other services or product. The government agencies do work with like all of these, and that's where that's why we have like different regulations, which is debatable. Some part of those regulations are kind of like hacked and you bought out by the big industries and whatnot. But overall, the regulations are good because they can, at least the government, acting from, assuming they're acting from the best intentions, can use these regulations to kind of ensure that individuals or companies don't exploit the people and the mass psychosis with come with people, because people, believe it or not, are dumb. And we, every one of us, have the ability to be dumb and act in a way where we'll be embarrassed or outright feel guilty after that happened. and that's part of just being human. And I don't think that anyone who posts content online should be just punished for that. But again, these are all there are definitely okay. There are no black and white lines here. There are gray lines. There always is, because life works in a spectrum and probability and whatnot. But the gray line here is like, at what point do you see that an individual who may have, like, say, 5,000 followers posting like most racist, anti-Semitic, and all the other labels you can add on it, and posting it to kind of like incite some sort of violence and whatnot? And would would that uh, would that need for an action, um, versus someone who has, like, say, 100,000 followers, or maybe even more, say 1 million followers, and when they post something, the outreach is so much bigger than someone who have like 5,000 followers. And uh, I don't think. I mean, anyone who posts anything in public, that's up to them. That's their right, and they should be able to. I don't think FBI should be specifically targeting these individuals per se, but they do have a right to kind of like label out, like, hey, this particular tweet seems to be like information, misinformation, or whatever uh, fit in their defined rules, I guess. And they should be able to like communicate with social media to kind of like hand it off, and letting them know, like, hey, we might think that this might be hurtful or harmful for the society at large. And then Twitter, as an institute, have to make that judgment call, and they shouldn't be just complying with like whatever FBI, CIA, or any other government official says. They have to kind of like fall back onto their set of like ethos, right? Like their um, terms and conditions, and all the other things which are within the window of Twitter, which seems to be what they have been doing here, at least for the 2 3 cases, because they did kind of like suspended few accounts, and um, they kind of like allowed or unsuspended like some of the other accounts, which seems to be like a um, you know comedy or satire of some sort. So I honestly think that there is a there's definitely some sort of like a middle ground here. And but um, the way I'm looking at it, Elon is not acting in a in a in a compassionate way, I guess, and also not acting in a way where it will he will be like uh, he will be fair to both sides, because clearly he seems to be under the influence of Republican side at this point, and that possibly is because to get more money, because Republicans are rich, and also to pitch his electric vehicle down the road. I think, and this is what I think happened, like back in like 2019, 2020. Elon noticed that, okay, the only way he can launch his cyber truck successfully is to have like the Republicans on board. And that's when he started shifting towards the right side of the political spectrum. And I wouldn't be surprised, like, he'll be he'll whenever he launch his truck, it's going to be instant hit. I mean, he does. I shouldn't be saying Elon per se, but Tesla does really good job with the cars and whatnot. I don't own one, but I can see how Tesla kind of like adds so much value into the lives of people in general. So there's that. Well, Matt's another tweet says, instead of chasing child sex predators or terrorists, the FBI has agents, lots of them, analyzing and mass flagging social media posts, not as part of any criminal investigation, but as a permanent and in itself surveillance operation. People should not be okay with this. So I sort of agree with what Matt is implying here, because FBI's main job is to keep us secure in the physical life, not in the virtual life, because people posting random crap on internet, you can't avoid that. Like, if you ever been if you've been on internet for a while, you know that. Everyone knows that. Sure, there are some dimwit who still fall for that crap, and that's on them. But it's not FBI's jobs to kind of monitor and say what is should be allowed and what shouldn't be allowed. But I think it's okay for FBI to say, hey, this particular user violated your terms of terms and conditions. It's not the most best use of resource, because clearly they are, they got to spend more time into looking at all the tweets and whatnot. So I agree with Matt that it's not the good way of using the resources. At the same time, I don't see anything wrong if FBI kind of like check out the public post of different individuals, and if they feel that there have been any violation in terms and conditions, just notifying the company that, hey, your terms have been violated, so whatever action you want to take, you can take it. If FBI is forcing Twitter to do that, then it's clearly wrong. But if it's FBI is kind of like directing, but I also see the subtle differences, because if an email come up in my mailbox from FBI, and if they kind of imply that these people are being like pain in their ass, then it's most likely that the employees will comply, and they'll just outright ban it. So it's a complicated situation to begin with. I don't think FBI should be in a business to kind of like monitor social media platform for every individuals. I get it after say a blue checked guy or gal for that matter, and I get it for like a more uh, famous or people who have like better outreach. If they're monitoring that, that's fine. And if they want to reach out to social media platform notifying that this particular individual violated their terms and conditions, that's fair too. But not fair. What not fair is like FBI just harassing people and like outright imposing a ban on various people. Let's see, Andrew Tate. I've heard about Andrew for a while. 2.8 million followers. Look at that. He says the falsely virtuous saying that Elon should accept real time doxing are just genuine clowns. They would panic absolutely if they were the richest, most important man alive and their enemies had real time info. Physical safety is number one priority. Elon is right to ban. These pussies were scared of COVID, but they wouldn't be afraid if feral internet psychopaths has exact locations. Any normal person would be uncomfortable with this, let alone someone at Elon's echelon. This is fake outrage garbage. Leave those accounts permabanned. Well, here's the thing, Andrew. All the information which apparently that particular account have been posting is available in public. So all he was doing was like collaging that and posting it online, and he continued to do that on other platforms. So um, that being said, it's the same thing where people like me kind of go through this trouble, where we know that the law is wrong, but we have to deal with it, and that's where Elon is for once. The law is kind of wrong in publicly posting the information of like private individuals, I guess. But I also get it, like why they do that, because they want to make sure, or maybe that's my presumption, because internally they should be able to like collaborate with different flights and whatnot, and they can like post the real-time location of a particular flight internally. Externally, I'm not 100% sure about this, especially for a private individual, because it's a privacy risk. I get it, like they have to post it and have to communicate it across different teams, just to make sure that they're like, when I say they, I mean like the airport authorities and whatnot. They have to do that just to make sure that that everything runs smoothly and there are no accidents in the air. But I think lawfully the private individuals uh, could be exempt. At the same time, I think maybe the private individuals should pay for it. How about that? What if they pay like, I don't know, $50,000 a year to the government agency to not to kind of like delay their real time location or something on that line? Because at the end of the day, this is all government information. Whatever is happening in the public airspace should be open to public. So there's that. I mean that's true for like commercial website, commercial airlines. Like you can follow the commercial airlines in real time, and it should be kind of true with the private airlines too. But I think it should be delayed and it shouldn't be in real time. And I think the private individuals could pay like a lump sum of money for to buy that privacy. I think all of those are kind of fair. But at the end of the day, that information should be out there to just so that we should know how many uh, you know uh, I mean, it's out there for a reason. I don't know the entire reason why the aviation agency did do that for private jets, but there must be a reason for that. But like I said, like they could like just have it internally, post the information with a certain type of delay. But I think what Elon did here was outright wrong, because he actually posted this tweet a while back that he would honor the First Amendment of other people to kind of post the information which is already available in the public space. So the dude haven't done anything wrong other than pissing off the big or maybe like small ego of Elon. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go over some of the bookmarks I've been planning to go over through. These are some good life habits and whatnot. Uh, okay, let's start with this. Is AI art really art? So the cultural tutor says, the cultural tutor. I like this. I don't think I'm following it clearly, but I like some of the content with this account post. Is AI art really art? That's one of the biggest and most interesting questions of the 21st century. And the answer might have something to do with this 500-year-old drawing from the notebooks of Leonardo da Vinci. There's one sense in which AI generated images are clearly art. They look like art, and we are increasingly using them like art, so they must be. But that's not usually what people mean when they say AI can't produce real art. Perhaps there's something more to it. Not everybody agrees on this. Of course, AI art is exciting and challenging in equal measures. It wasn't long after the invention of photography, a challenge of no less significance to art than AI, that the French poet Charles Baudelaire wrote this. If photography is allowed to supplement art in some of its functions, it will soon have supplanted or corrupted it altogether, thanks to the stupidity of the multitude, which is its natural ally. It is time, then, for it to return to its truly duty, which is to be the servant of the sciences and arts. But if we al- but if it is if it be allowed to encroach upon domain of the impalpable and the imaginary, upon anything whose value depends solely upon the addition of something of a man's soul, then it will be so much the worse for us. Baudelaire's concerns are similar to modern fears about AI, and yet, 2 centuries later, we have had Monet, Van Gogh, Picasso, Dali, and so on. Things will change, certainly, but there will still be art and there will still be artists, so maybe none of this really matters. But back to the question, is AI art real art? That depends, of course, how we define art. It's an incredibly broad and often useless term. Galleries are deceptive, for most art in history usually had a specific purpose and context. In any case, here's one possible answer. This sketch is from Leonardo's notebook in 1494. It's a preparatory drawing for the Last Supper completed in 1498. He, like many artists do, was trying out different angles, poses, compositions, and expressions until he found the right way of depicting the scene. That's beautiful. Renaissance artists were obsessed by composition. by the mathematical rules which govern proportion, space, and natural harmony. As you see in one of the Leonardo's preparatory sketches for an unfinished painting, the adoration of the Magi, every single detail mattered to him. Wow, look at that. Like, look at the number of lines, look at the number of intersecting lines, and all the um, all the characters within that painting. That's amazing. Here are some preparatory sketches made by Raphael for his Madonna of the Meadows, painted in 1506. Notice the subtle differences between each sketch, minute alterations of pose and expression of the precise relationship between each of the figures. I'm kind of curious, like if they have like these preparatory sketches, I'm sure these are like in a different individual paint boards or like maybe paper or something. This is obviously the final product, and on the paint board. I'm sorry if I don't know what the paint board is actually called. Uh, it makes sense. So they've been practicing multiple times before getting to the final product. So, why did artists make these sketches? Well, imagine if you decided to paint the Last Supper. How would you do it? The amount of things to decide are almost unquantifiable, from the precise pose of every person depicted to the colors of their clothes and everything in between. This is about how and why an artist chooses to depict something that particular way when they could have chosen from so many others. Whether subtly different like Raphael's iterated sketches, or radically different like the Last Supper of Leonardo and Tintoretto. Yeah, never heard about Tintoretto, but it's a whole, yeah, it's a different angle, different vibe, different location. Jesus, where is Jesus? I think the one in the shining aura at the back, that gotta be the Jesus. Cool. There are essentially an infinite number of ways of depicting anything. Every single detail can always be slightly different. It was this specific version that Leonardo chose to create. From an infinite number of possibilities, this was his personal vision of the Last Supper. Hence, why text to image AIs give multiple versions of prompts. The possibilities are infinite. The specific intention behind the details of much, but not all, of course, human art is absent from AI. It is only when people choose images that intention appears, ex post facto. So these are different iterations of a similar painting. Nice. I see the point you're making here, cultural tutor. Okay, so moving on. So this is the real question. When is a work of art finished? There's no objective standard, and so perhaps this is the soul of which Baudelaire spoke. The decision of an individual artist to depict something that way, and the congruent power to say that it is finished. If we compare Vermeer's girl with a pearl earring to some AI generated variations, can we say that the original is best? You can probably make a case that it's objectively superior for technical reasons or otherwise. It certainly seems the most expressive and captivating. Honestly, I don't even know which one is the original. I'm assuming the first one or the last one. Gotta be one of these two. No, definitely first one. I would assume first one. And here is Frederick's Wander above a sea of fog with AI variations. Again, the original seems to have an intangible quality which makes it feel better. Such is the result of an artist's skill and intention. That being said, it is perfectly reasonable not to think so. You might prefer the Vermeer and Frederick's originals, or you might prefer the AI variants, but taste is subjective. That's not the point here. What matters is that Vermeer and Frederick, of all the infinite possibilities that lay before them, choose a specific way. And this is something that, it seems, AI cannot, yet at least, replicate. It is in this gray area of subjectivity, of deciding precisely what the art should look like and when it is finished, where the strange creative process behind any work of art reveals itself. You might call this the feeling that a work of art is just right, that nothing could be added or taken away, that it feels as if it was always supposed to be that way. A feeling encapsulated even in the seemingly random work of an artist like Jackson Pollock. What is this? Jackson. Look like just scribbles of random lines. Well, this applies to Leonardo or Vermeer no less than that to artists of every type today, whether in fine arts or cinema SFX or video games or graphic design. The ability of an individual to produce a highly intentional work of art, even working to order, is hard to replicate. Of course, AI art poses an immense challenge to these artists. The careers of many will surely be affected. After all, it's cheaper and quicker to use AI than to pay somebody. So the question is really a technical one, whether AI can produce art of sufficient quality. But thinking of the examples from Leonardo and Raphael, there is a big difference between an AI generated image and a deeply considered, personally conceived work of art. Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night could not be by anybody or anything else because it was he who painted it. That's true, and it is one of the remarkable paintings. Perhaps there will be AI which achieves such individuality and sensibility. Perhaps the technology will improve beyond belief. Some AI art has already been auctioned. Edmond de Bellamy for 432,000 in 2018 was the first, and the cover of The Economist in June was created by AI. 432,000. Wow, that's a huge sum of money. Huge. But I'm sure like the AI engine behind that might have iterated through like multiple generations to become good enough to paint something like that. Well, only time will tell the importance of AI art and to what extent it supplants humans, or to what extent they can work together. Can it replicate the soul shown by Leonardo when sketching out the Last Supper? Will people still recognize, admire, and pay for such soul? Who knows? Art isn't what it was in Leonardo's time, nor even what it was a century ago, but art is still here because it has been since the start of human civilization. Like the printing press, photography, and the internet, AI is but another exciting step in its endless evolution. I like that. That's a good thread. Uh, let's do one more threads before we can like wrap it up. So, power of values. I wrote a thread about how to be happy, fulfilled, and motivated like your ancestors. A dopamine reset guide. Disclaimer: this will be a longer thread. Before we get started, let's look at what dopamine actually is. Dopamine is a chemical released by your brain to give you the satisfying feeling of doing something useful. In our primal years as humans, this would have meant finding food, procreating, finding a cave as shelter, producing tools, etc. All would have given us a very satisfying feeling that this is good. It gives us motivation to do such activities. But in the modern day and age, we have everything at our fingertips and don't need to work for our dopamine hits anymore. This is a problem, as you most likely know. This thread will serve as a guide to those of you feeling numb and seemingly not enjoying life as much as you could. First, we should identify the problematic sources: porn and masturbation, TikTok, alcohol, stimulants, TV shows, Netflix, too many dumb YouTube videos, processed foods high in sugar, casual sex. I have probably forgotten some, but you get the point. These are all bad because they are all unnatural resources. They blast your dopamine receptors, which make them numb to the novel resources of nature. Now, where are these natural resources? Think of walking, reading, having deep conversations, journaling or writing, cleaning or doing basic tasks around the house, training sports or fighting, lifting, eating well, taking care of yourself, cuddling, taking a warm bath, taking a cold shower, just to name some. These are all natural things to do that will give you steady, sustainable resources of dopamine and won't make you crash afterwards lingering for more. Basically, doing these things will make you fulfilled. Now that we have identified both the good and the bad, how do you arrange your life in such a way that you can start becoming more fulfilled? Number one, identify the problematic pleasure activities for you. Not every activity is as bad as the other. Identify which harms you. Some people's go to way to escape is through drugs, while others is through Netflix and cookies. Find what is hurting you and write them down. By identifying them through writing, you make them tangible. You can look at them objectively, which allows you to tackle the problem more effectively. Point two, identify your ideal self. Now that you have identified the problematic activities that don't suit you, it's time to start writing again. This time, you want to write about your ideal self. Like get a piece of paper, start writing, and have no desired outcome. Just let your fantasy go to the work. Where do you envision yourself in, say, 1 to 10 years? What does your ideal self do on a day to day basis? How does he look? What energy does he vibrate? What does he feel? Go through all the landmarks. Just start writing. Detach yourself from outcomes. Point three, find which natural activities accommodate the ideal identity. What would your ideal self do? Which habits does he participate in? Write these down as well, just as in the previous two steps. You will find that a lot of activities speak to you. You adore these activities. They will give you a sense of calmness by just thinking about them. How nice would it be if you could just spend your day lifting, nourishing, walking, reading, and cuddling and be fucking happy? Exactly. This is what we are aiming for. Point four, look at your daily routine critically. Now, this is where it gets spicy. What you want to do is this: write down your daily routines on a piece of paper. Yes, I know, a lot of writing, but this is part of the reset to trust, so trust me. Preferably go through every hour of your day, but you could do every 30 to 120 minutes. Any longer than that is not preferable, as things will get too vague. Write down in detail what you do at these times. Point five, match the harmful activities with your earlier list. So, get out your list from the first step. What activities you wrote down there do you recognize in your daily routine? If there are none, you either lied to yourself or you're just better than you thought. I leave that up to you. But if there are matches, good. Then those times are your focus points. There are probably problematic time frames during your days when you're either bored or just have time in between tasks. Whatever it is, you need healthy replacement for those times. Plan these natural activities. So, like I mentioned above, instead of planning not to watch TV or porn, we are going to plan what we are going to do. For example, let's say you watch porn every day when you get home from work between 6 to 6:30 p.m. Instead of doing that, you are now going to take a 30-minute walk. Write this down in a new daily schedule. So, same schedule as before, but now with the natural activity planned. Remember, by writing it down, you make things tangible. You just made a commitment to yourself. This is the first step to break free. Now, do this for any harmful activities you might have in your daily routine. Step 7 or point 7, execute. Understand this. This will not be easy. The first couple of weeks, you will need to rely on a lot of willpower. But once you get through these, life will get easier and more exciting again. What can help is to write down your why on a piece of paper and stick it somewhere where you normally conduct in self harming behavior. This could be the bedroom, kitchen, or living room, as long as you can see it very clearly. Also, it can help a lot to do this with an accountability partner. For example, your spouse or best friend. Do this together. When the going gets tough for either, you can help each other push through. But this guide is designed with the sole purpose of making your life more enjoyable, so this should be get easier over time. Point 8, evaluate your days. This is a crucial step. When you're executing, you don't want to do this like a headless chicken. Be planned, be calculated. Every night, journal about your day. There's a healthy routine for you for free. But seriously, journaling has been one of the best habits I have adopted. Clears the mind and boosts creativity too. Write about your write about how your day went, how you feel, what emotions came up, etc. Experiment for yourself when you want to this, for how long and what you want to write about. You will get accustomed to it over time, guaranteed. Point 9, adjust accordingly. Last but not least, when evaluating your days, you'll probably identify some bottlenecks in the process. Eliminate these. People don't stick to a routine because I said so. Remember, it must be your routine for it to work. This is extremely important. I've made this mistake time and time again, where I would do something because some internet guru said so, but I just found it didn't work in that way for me. So I made my own versions of them, and now habits stick. Check out my private Telegram channel where you get early or even exclusive access to guides, resources, voice memos to help build men's resilience, health, and independence. If you want in, then join here. That's it. If this thread was useful, please retweet. I don't know why I'm reading that, but it. But this has been a good. This has been a good session. I like it. Just going through some of the bookmarks or whatnot on Twitter, um, kind of helps to reset. I love the threads on Twitter. Not all threads, of course, but threads from the people I admire and look up to, and occasionally for threads from people who have like very insightful points. For instance, the people we went over today, I don't follow any of them, but I like what they were doing, so I admire that, and I bookmark it, and that's one good way to kind of like creating a collage of your tweets and then revisiting them down the road. Um, but this is fun. Yeah, feel free to post any good tweets you have got from any random Twitter, I guess, Twitter profile, I guess. But I love to review like some sort of like a funny and insightful tweet. So that's exactly what I'm looking for with this whole online streaming. Speaking of which, we are about to wrap up, and this has been uh, one of the good live streams I've had in a while. So I'm super happy about that. But we'll be back. We'll be back hopefully on Monday, next Monday, at 5-ish p.m. And I'm still trying to figure this out, how I want to do this. I want to stream this at least thrice a week, and I don't know which days and what times, but I'm going to make it more consistent for the upcoming year. So we're going to have a lot of blast. Well, but until next time,